like to call this meeting of the Palmyra-Eagle Area School District School Board to order at 7 o'clock on May 11th. Could we have a roll call? I can do that. Tara Leroy? Here. Mike Letty?
Here.
Zach Burkowski?
Here.
Doris Parsons is here. Jean Reed?
Here.
Missy Rashevsky? Here. Christiana Williams?
Here.
We are all here. Once again, that's very nice. We have full board meetings all the time, which is fantastic. So obviously it's a quorum. I'd like to now read the district mission statement. To ensure that students excel with intellect and virtue, inspired by innovative educators who engage and challenge each individual. Would you join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second that.
Is there any discussion?
I would like to remove higher item, or consent agenda item D, higher 1B, and table that till our June, or remove that from the consent agenda.
Can we put it under action item and have a discussion on that?
We can, if you would like to.
I can just, typically when you have some on consent, it's removed, so you vote on it separately versus, I mean, you can, when you get to that point, you can then approve tabling it, but once it's typically on consent, it's pulled off, and it gets voted on separately, or the decision is made separately to table.
I would like to remove it from the consent agenda.
We had a motion and a second, and Mitzi's amending the motion to have, which item is it again?
D1, hires.
So the original motion and second, do you agree to the change? We'd have to vote to approve the agenda, so if there's if she's making a change to the original agenda, we could vote on it with the change, as long as the person who made the original motion and seconded agree with it. So if you don't agree with it, then we'll vote on.
I agree with it. It allows for discussion, is that what
Yeah,
you're
it's
saying?
good. It's gonna be discussion, that's fine.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda with the consent agenda item D, hire number 1, move to an action item for discussion and voting separately. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, election of officers. A, current board president, which is me, I need to ask for nominations for board president for the coming year.
I nominate Doris Parsons.
I'll second.
I would accept that. Are there any further nominations?
I would move that we close nomination, cast unanimous ballot.
Second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'll bring cookies next meeting.
Glad I negotiated ahead of time.
Okay, could we have nominations for board vice president?
I'll make a nomination for Jean for vice president.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jean, do you accept that?
I'll accept that.
Are there any further nominations?
I would move that we close nominations and cast a unanimous ballot.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Jean. We have a nomination for treasurer.
I'll nominate Missy Rashevsky for treasurer.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Nancy, would you accept that?
Sure.
Are there any further nominations? All those in favor of Mitzi for treasurer, say aye.
that. Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. Congratulations, Mitzi. We have a nomination for clerk.
I nominate Michael Eddy.
I'll second.
Michael, would you accept?
Certainly.
Are there any further nominations?
I move that we close nominations and cast a unanimous ballot.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Michael. Annual appointments. What we've done in the past is, Brad was going to, Todd, I don't know if you have it, do you have those sheets that have the board committees?
No, I think Brad had those.
Okay, since we're the same board, there's no new people jumping in. If anyone would email me if you have any change requirements or wishes for what committees you're on now, and then I will get back to everyone if there's any changes, or we can remain status quo if everyone is happy with the committees they're serving on. Presently, the WASB delegate is Tara, and the CISA representative is Mitzi. Because of COVID, neither of you really got to go do what you were, so if you're still, again, let me know if anybody else is interested in those, or if you guys still are, and we'll do that way. I'll get that back to you before the next round of committee meetings there, in case anybody's changing. Board secretary, that is Brad Warner at this point. I know Todd's going to be talking about reorganization of the business office, but are you still,
For now, he would be there, yeah.
okay.
Except for during baseball
Do we
season.
have to vote on that?
We vote on the board secretary?
Typically, yes.
Okay. I would nominate, do I nominate him then, or just appoint?
Yeah.
Okay. I nominate Brad Warner to be board secretary.
I'll second. I'll second. Who's taking minutes is my only question right now, because,
On camera.
okay, but still
The
need minutes,
transcribe.
or we can be.
The transcribe.
Yeah, the transcript.
Yeah.
Board.
Oh, he can watch the tape over and over. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Brett. Annual designations. We received from Todd suggestions for A, B, C, and D, who we currently use and who we would use. E is the only one that did not have an actual name attachment to it. If everyone read over the A was 7 p.m. second Tuesday of each month, which is what we typically do.
Do we have to vote on that?
Well, you just vote on all of
He
them.
was, yeah, we go on all of them.
Now, I did say in one of our buildings, and I think that, I know that used to be the law, it had to be in a ADA accessible school building. In other words, you couldn't go to, one of the local establishments in town, of the board meeting. You can go to other locations for special events, social events, whatever. Or, if you're gonna tour something, you do that. But the regular meeting typically should be in a building. I don't think that's our issue, but thought I had it.
Okay, legal and labor relations, you had Von Briesen.
Yeah, they're as inexpensive as anyone else. They're very efficient. Unlike a different law firm that I'm still fighting with from August.
District Depository is First Citizens Bank in Palmyra. And persons authorized to sign checks has been president, treasurer, and clerk.
Correct.
Correct?
Yeah, the district check.
The district checks.
A student activity account could be a principal. And usually you want two a principal and a secretary should have two signatures on any kind of student activity check.
So we need a motion to accept A, B, C, and D annual designations as suggested and presented by Dr. Gray.
I motion to keep those annual designations as Dr. Gray suggested.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, E, designate administrator to assume specified responsibilities of the treasurer and or of the clerk. There wasn't a suggestion by you on that one. I don't know if we've had that designated.
The only
in the past.
thing is, when I was a business manager years ago, I was technically the board secretary and I was also the deputy clerk. Now, the only, the reason, well, I was thinking, if I did some of the clerk stuff, I've kept my notary all these years for some reason. I think I've only used it once in the last 15 years. The problem is if I sign, I can't notarize my own signature. So if you designated someone else. Now, what we did in Waukesha is we had a board member who was designated as deputy clerk, in case the clerk was not available. Those are the ones typically, those signatures are typically more critical than just about being the one. The clerk has to sign off more than anyone else. So if Mike could make it, for example, there would be a deputy clerk that could do it.
So would you suggest we designate then a deputy clerk?
Yes.
rather than-
Yeah, that's probably the primary person that would do that. I mean, that would give you 4 people who could potentially sign it something.
I think that's a good idea, someone like on the clerk, not being billed, but someone is authorized to sign them instead. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, especially since sometimes you're not available to come in. So we would need a motion with a name attached.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to designate Christina Williams as the deputy clerk.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
Any further discussion?
She raised
Oh, do you accept?
Yeah.
She raised her hand.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Yes.
Public comment. We didn't have any come in, and we don't have anyone here at this time. Board monitoring. We have discussion and update on open enrollment.
You're looking at me. That, you want me to update the enrollment?
Well, we have,
It's
There should be something in.
I wasn't prepared to do that.
we have a
I can, there's, if I can find the report.
I've seen the list.
Yeah.
Yes, and Katie sent us a copy, I believe, of the letter she sent out to all of her open enrollment families, and she's been getting feedback on that. So I don't know if she's provided that, but I think they're not due yet, and so she's waiting, and then I'm assuming the board will get feedback on why people chose to do that and if they really are. But what we did get in our packet was a chart of how many are out
Right.
from each building. And as Todd talked a little bit about in finance, it's hard to tell if those people are really going or if some are coming back in. And Mitzi, you said you noticed a trend that it's looking better.
The number going out, those applications to go out is the lowest it's been in a couple of years.
That's great.
So it's still, it was still around 100, which is a lot. But those are applications. They may or may not go. And then, of course, and those are new ones. And so ones who are currently open enrolled, like for this last year, thinking the district's going to close, they may come back, but the principals probably aren't going to hear about it until closer to the start of the school year.
Well, and almost 50% of those applications are from 4K and 5K.
Yeah, and I think what I'm gonna work with Katie too, is we have to let people understand that if you go on our 4K and 5K, you're gonna get busing. If you go to another district in the area, you're gonna have to drive.
Plus, you're gonna have all day 4K.
Yeah.
And-
You do it,
And you're gonna be close to home,
yeah. Right.
really are, for your little ones. But, you know, like I said, all day, and it's within a school building setting,
Right.
which is different than some of our neighboring districts, which are outsourced.
And the majority of those families have never stepped foot in the district.
Yeah.
You know, the majority of them are always outers and they either are changing districts or for whatever reason there's a new application. I will reach out to the ones that, I think there's 3 that were losing 5th grade to 6th grade, or that have applied 3 or 4. So I always reach out to them. I usually wait till the beginning of summer to do it. Last year I reached out to everyone on that list. I didn't get a lot back, but it's an email. I mean, it's not difficult for me to do, so I can do that again. I'm gonna say it out loud, so it's gonna come back to bite me, so know that this will change the minute I say it. For the first time ever that I can remember, I don't have any from 8 to 9, which never happens, never.
Well,
We
it is-
always lose some from 8 to 9. So we will, somebody will go, yes, it's not on there, someone will apply late, but to not have any in the initial app was really shocking to me, I'll be honest, so that. And then we always lose some at those big term points, you know, which is now 5 to 6, now 6 to 7, so.
But in looking at this, if I'm looking at this right too, we don't have any current students applied out from 7th through 12th.
Correct.
So that, I mean, that
Correct.
is huge.
Mhm.
The other thing we need to do too is, I think, promote the wraparound care, because if they're going to another district and going to one of those daycares that are contracted out, if they're paying for wraparound care, it's not cheap. I mean, where we can make it pretty inexpensive.
Can we, the kids we lost due to dissolution, mostly were those going into 9th grade, correct? Because everybody didn't
So
want
they-
kids.
Or 7.
The largest group will be juniors next year. And I'm gonna be real honest with you, those aren't kids you're getting back.
They're not.
No, because the junior year, you're already well established. They lose sports eligibility at junior year.
Varsity stuff.
You know, I have a hard time with high school kids even seeing coming back a lot. But I mean, I think your get back is elementary, maybe early middle. Maybe there'll be some there. But that largest group, they'll be juniors next year, I just don't see a big comeback from them.
It was encouraged too with the OEN. It said 8, and I'm assuming that's on top of, I think we had like 39 this year that OEN. So this 8 is 8 on top of that.
The ones coming in.
And similar to what Todd's saying with the OEN too, they don't have to reapply, so you hope and pray they're coming, but I always say it's when they show up in September is when I know who. And that is a point I'll make with the families, and if Katie didn't, I'll tell her, like, applying isn't going, being accepted doesn't mean you have to go, you can show up on the first day of September and we'll enroll you and take you. Just because you filled it out doesn't mean you have to go, and they have to do something in June to commit, but it's not a commitment. A lot of them think once they've done that, they can't undo it, you can always undo it. So that's something just good to make known to them as well.
Did anybody, on the open houses that Katie had, how was the turnout there? Was that encouraging, or did people fill out if they're, did she have some
She did the
open houses for 4K?
4K, and those I think were, I was at one of them. And I think overall the turnout was good, she was pleased. She has another one scheduled the end of this month for 4K, so hopefully that will be good. But I'm thinking that we should do something for the coming up 6th grade families, because the thing that I have heard again is, I'm not sending my kid from 5th grade at Eagle up to be with the high school kids, and parents aren't grasping the fact that we're not throwing them all together in a fishbowl and letting them
They're
send for
segregated.
themselves. Yeah, that there is segregation.
We always do something at open house for them, so we do that. They were up here too, for a half a day, or, yeah, more than a half a day, they were up here. So I think that helped, because they probably didn't see any big, bad, scary high school kids when they were up here, so, yeah.
That might be good to even, if you could ID a few 6th grade parents that are positive, that have lived through it. Sometimes people like to hear from other parents more than administrators and teachers or board members. But if it's another, you know, Zach's telling me that his daughter came up to 6th grade and is phenomenal, that holds a lot more weight. So-
Yeah, and I think there's 4 families right now, of 5 to 6 on that.
Any other discussion or updates on open enrollment? Okay, committee reports. Public Relations Committee met on 4/15. Tara?
Okay. We did, we had much discussion. We talked about, got some updates from Caitlin, our PR coordinator, and from Katie Robertson. A lot of good things happening at Eagle Elementary. Almost too much for her to keep posting, and we're getting lots of front page coverage on the enterprise, from the things going on over at Eagle Elementary, so that's great. She did say she had like a record number of kids sign up for a makerspace and their after-school activities, so they are doing really good over there with the elementary kids, and that's great. The other thing we talked about, community email, we discussed announcements and how to use the community email, the process for getting that out, so I think that should be hammered down and good to go. Summer school promotions, those went out the last week of April. Some really great things in the summer school programs this year. I'm excited about the offerings that they put together. They did a signing event. What day was that one? I'll look it up.
22nd of April, 23rd of April.
Okay, they did a signing event where they had the student athletes that have committed, and there was, I think, 9. Yeah, it was nice. They did a nice event in the gym, and they live streamed it so you could watch it. So that was nice to have that many student athletes committed already out of a class of 60 kids. That's pretty significant. They're taking advantage of their opportunities. We also talked about putting together year-end community newsletter, one to kind of wrap up the school year, have the end of June, and use that as promo to encourage people to enroll for fall, and then do an end of the year one, again, sharing all the highlights and positive information and things that we have to offer here. Teacher Appreciation Week was last week. Came up with some things together. Teacher Trivia. I know the PTO over at Eagle did a bunch of wonderful things down there. We had Mr. Heath's truck here for the staff here. And then we talked about the Eagle Business Association has asked us that they give to the new residents that come in that have information from local businesses. Katie was going to work on getting some Eagle swag and things put together to put in that to share all the wonderful things at Eagle Elementary. And that was pretty much it.
Thank you, Tara. HR Committee, also met on 4/15, Jean?
Yes, it met at 4:15. We discussed the salary compensation. Todd went over in more detail, but that was, we started it there in terms of the discussion, and then Todd did the work. And then we also discussed the business office and some of Todd's plans for that. And for now, he wants to stick with the current structure, and he's going to give more detail to that. The review for the progress for the shopping of benefits for 21-22, Todd was taking that on, and he was looking to be able to bring more information to our May meeting. Is that for HR May meeting, or is that when you're going to bring some of the details for that?
Yeah, we'll talk more about that.
So we'll be able to talk in the upcoming meeting that's
Yep.
scheduled for the 20th of this month. And then we also discussed the staffing and coordination of new hires for our coaching needs. And Todd said that he was checking and that he believed that that was being addressed, and that is something that we are currently doing, and that was it.
All right, thank you. Curriculum and Policy Committee met on 5/4. Christiana?
Yes, so we discussed our Summer Scholars Program. Katie let us know that they had 36 applications already returned on day 2. So it was looking very positive. We talked about, we did just a check-in on the Equine program progress. Basically, Todd had gone ahead and made kind of a basic budget for it, but he was still looking for numbers about how many students and kids to finalize those budget numbers. He was able to check with the insurance company, and they were fine with it, but Todd did make sure that he would say he'd get it in writing for us. And so we were kind of thinking the 21-22 school year would be like a trial run. And I know Katie had talked about like a meet and greet for kind of to gauge some interest. And Katie and Carrie were kind of going to try to work on numbers one way or the other. We also discussed our curriculum director needs. The administration supports that we do need some sort of curriculum director or assistance in one way, shape, or form. And so we kind of discussed basically what our new teachers need, what the schools need, what the classes need. And so Todd was going to go ahead and earmark the budget for that position, and then it would end up going to the full board sometime over the summer. The last thing on our agenda was the discussion regarding face covering requirements. And we had sent out the survey, which you guys have all seen, which has been updated since my committee met. But about the same results, with an 80% supported a recommended versus the 20% supported a required. And there was some discussion. There was around roughly about 45 kids it would come down to that would choose to go virtual versus stay in person. So there was that piece to it, and the committee did recommend that we move to a recommended stance. And we were looking for a start date of May 24th. That gives everybody, it's not a drop it tonight and everybody's scrambling tomorrow. Gives us about a week and a half to get there and for certain parents to figure out what they need. And that's it.
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds met tonight. Michael?
Yeah, we covered a few topics we started out by discussing air quality, which has finally come to a point where we can actually vote on it tonight, so we'll get to see that. We discussed food service. Todd's been working with Annette to discuss whether or not if we can get away from using the government food, or is there collaboration with Whitewater that might present us with some better food options. So I look forward to seeing some results there. The 21-22 capital improvements, bid activity. Rich got to go ahead and start getting some bids. He got several bids, and for the roof 14, total package there came in at $55,626 to be split up between labor and materials. FGA Christensen got the labor, the lowest labor, and then for the materials, ABC got the lowest bid for the materials. So they'll be looking at what dollars we have out of the 2021 budget and see how that all plays out moving forward. But we're not going to kick that one down the road. We're going to figure out a way to get it done. We talked about issues about people cutting through PES, and basically it just comes down to people who are closing the gate. And we need some gate monitoring. Hopefully that stops. We don't need any variation there with bringing people that aren't associated with the schools on the grounds. And then we talked about making sure that we have deep cleaning in the gym bleachers and the entranceways, making sure that we put our best foot forward as to how we reflect our facilities with people coming in. It was also brought up that there are two other things, that possibly midsummer that we could get a tour from the board to tour all facilities to see what we have and what's available. And then there was a discussion around the EES floor plan, or the remodeling of a classroom into a conference room and 2 offices. We did request to get basically a floor plan of the EES, and we want to see what the overall usage is of that facility that might help us understand a little bit more what we're trying to do. We saw some 3D pictures of drawings, it looked pretty neat, but there's a little more for us to go after, so. And that was it.
Great, thank you. Finance Committee also met tonight. Mitzi?
We did meet tonight. We had a discussion regarding the Chromebook leasing for staff and adding the iPads for 4K and 5K into a rotation of 4 years, which we are recommending that we do when we do the lease. We had a buyout option of $1 per unit, which we will try to then sell to reduce some of that cost, and I expect the same thing to be had in the next lease agreement. It was in your board packet. Discussion of treasurer's report was very limited without a business manager and working through our situation in our office with our financials. However, we did have a little bit of a budget update for this school year and the future school year, and our financials look in line with our budget, and we seem to be on very solid financial ground. Few discrepancies there has to do with the open enrollment report, which we saw, which was optimistic in my mind. It's not great, but it's much less than it has been in the previous years. And as we discussed, about 50% of it was kids that were little, had never even been here. We discussed our COVID expenses. We have about $80,000 in ESSER 1, just over $300,000 in ESSER 2, and so some of those will be used for capital projects and looking at some of our other expenses. We did discuss the staff salary proposal and are recommending a 5% increase for instructional and support staff across the board, retroactive to point of employment or the current beginning of the school year, for hourly and instructional. And that's it for finance.
Thank you. Do we have any reports from either of you administrators?
Katie's home with a sick kid, I'll report that.
Okay.
Just end of the year stuff, get ready for 8th grade promotion, graduation, all of you with seniors. Staff, trying to plan staff end of the year celebration that we didn't get to do, so look for an invite to that. We will do the 2019 retirees and the 2020 retirees, because we never did anything for Mr. Greenquist and Monica Essett and Joe Whitehouse, so they will be invited. That'll be on the last day of school. That's about it. 17 days, I think, is what we got left. 17 days.
16 and a half.
16 and a half.
She looked at me.
Prom, middle school dance, get ready for those two, so it'll be a little bit normal to end the year, which will be nice.
And you'll be sending us out details on the last day retirement?
Yes, I will send that to all of you as well. I should also report, we so far have raised well over $1,000 in our ALS fundraiser that we're doing. That was just on t-shirt sales. We still are starting the ice bucket thing, so if you'd like to see Sue Fisher or somebody dumped with ice, you can drop off some cash. Not me, drop off some cash in the office, but yeah, so that'll be nice, and go to the community member. I believe they might also be talking to V about something in May for her as well, which would be awesome. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus D1?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item D1.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to recognize the generous, it's overwhelming the amount of the generous donations that have been made to our district and for the betterment of our children, in academically, physically, and just the emotional support that's been received. But there's a lot of dollars there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thanks, Mitzi. Any other comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Action items. The one we moved from the consent agenda, we'll go ahead and do first. So we need a motion to approve the hire of B. Drua as an Eagle Elementary School special ed teacher.
I'll make a motion to consider the hire of B. Drua as EES special ed teacher.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
So why did we move this?
It's been posted now. We did not, this person doesn't have a licensure. It was going to be with an emergency license going forward, not a substitute license, but an emergency license, and it had not been posted to see if there was a licensed candidate. So it has been posted. This person has applied, I believe, and it just seems prudent and ethical to have it open so people can apply for a job.
The recommendation came from you, Kaylee.
She's been our long-term sub for Greg Dietz since December. And she has now signed up to apply for the test to get her license, to be licensed come August, to stay with us next year. So that's why we moved forward with trying to get her as an employee for the remainder of the year so she can get paid for the work that she's been doing as opposed to a sub.
And you and Katie both were in support.
She's been an amazing asset to our team. She's been doing all of her lesson planning from day one. That hasn't been provided to her. She's picked up right where, Greg left off. She has been great with parents. She's made great connection with our students. She works wonderfully with our 2 other special ed teachers. They've really become a really solid team. So when she made that step to sign up for the test to take in August, that's when we moved forward. But Mitzi is correct. We just now posted it. So we did not interview for other candidates. We went with the recommendation of someone that has been with us since December and has been a strong asset.
Well, and if you look at the confidential notice that was sent to us, she does appear to have the education required to.
Yeah, she has a regular ed license.
Right,
Agreed.
right, so she has a teaching degree, she's been subbing in special ed since December. She's applying for the emergency license and taking the test in August.
To be licensed.
Okay.
So the whole issue here was procedure.
Yes.
Okay, so
Right.
we can get past that since it's been posted.
Right.
Okay.
And it's still your recommendation as.
Yeah, she's been phenomenal.
But it is posted at this point, so.
I would just hate to lose someone that is already proven to be an asset to the district over
Yes.
a simple procedural oversight. But, yeah, I trust you. You've been great with your recommendations, and that if we've got someone that's a known asset already, we want to hold on to them.
Well, I agree completely with that. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
following the correct steps,
Yes.
which we know in the past hasn't always occurred, and it's not been a pretty sight.
Yeah, it's just crossing the Ts, dotting the Is, and we have processes that have to be followed, and no harm, we got it posted, we can, we
Can
can
move
keep
forward
losing.
confidently.
We can move forward.
All right, good point. Is there any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve the hire. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye, we were going to, we have it posted for candidates. You just approved a hiring of something that we have open posting on for other candidates.
Did the posting have a closure date?
Next week.
Well, the motion was to hire the person, and the second was to hire the person. Yeah.
I fully understand the motion and my vote.
Yes, me as well.
Okay. The motion carried. But we will make note that it carried 6-1 in the minutes. Action item A, consider approval of the 2021-2022 WIA membership renewal.
I motion to consider the approval of 21-22 WIA.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and consider approval of resolution to lease Chromebooks for our staff and iPads for kindergarten students. I believe Ryan talked on that. Prior, is there any, we have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to consider the approval of the resolution to lease the Chromebooks for our staff and iPad for our kindergarten students.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further questions for Ryan or discussion?
I would just like to say, good job, well done.
Informative.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. The first time we got that came to us, to the board, did anyone catch it said, replace Chromebooks for our old teachers? I'm like, yeah, that was the thing. Last week I was laughing at that, going, oh, just the old teachers need to replace it. You meant old Chromebooks for the
Yeah, for
teachers.
the
but
teachers.
Typos.
It was funny.
Doris, I want to speak out of turn, I know I'm supposed to. I just hope you all know that with a year and a half of our lives would have been almost impossible had we not hired Ryan a year and a half before that. What he did and where he took our technology made March of last year survivable, and it was not survivable. And he gets very little credit and works very hard, and I think he works till midnight every night, and I don't know how his wife is still married to him, but what he did and where he got us saved us. It saved us without a doubt, so I appreciate everything he does.
Thanks for bringing that up here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You had a tough job, and you still do, but this was
We all,
amazing.
It's right until you call the teachers home.
I'm trying to say.
Some are, some of them are. Okay, C, consider approval of open enrollment applications for 21-22 school year.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of the open enrollment applications for the 21-22 school year.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I would just like to point out that any applications that are denied for special needs, opening out are not from our district, they are from the district where they are applied to. So we are not holding anyone here hostage because of special needs or IEPs. That is on the district that they are applying to. I think that needs to be made very clear.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of revision of mask policy.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of the revised mask
I'll second.
face covering policies.
Now, we just, well, you can ask for
You-
further
you
discussion,
have to
discuss
add-
the date, should we
Yeah,
include
there were
the
two
dates?
dates out there. One was March 24th, which is Monday, and the other one was June 1st.
May 24th. May 24th.
Oh, hey.
Don't send us back tomorrow.
Let's make it better.
So I mean, in your motion, you should probably indicate which date.
All right, so since nobody seconded it, I can still continue
Yep.
speaking, right? So,
Well, Michael did second.
oh,
Didn't he?
Yeah, I did.
You could make it from, this is the clarification.
second, what's the amendment? What?
The date.
I'm just making an amendment to my original motion that the start date would be May 24th.
I'm still in the position to second that.
Any further discussion?
And
I just want to note that I think we should do this tomorrow, but I understand.
I want to do it right now.
Yeah,
Me too.
there's a lot of people that are worried about it, so.
But for clarification purposes for people viewing this, the motion is to move to make the masks
Recommend.
recommended, not
recommended, yeah.
mandatory as of May 24th. That
Want to wear them, you can still wear them.
That's right. And I would suggest, and I'm sure you probably already are on top of it, but some communications with students, especially
So
to be.
Caitlin and I worked on started a very brief statement today. I'm assuming those of you who have children in our buildings will go home and probably share the news with them. So I will communicate out with the kids and staff tomorrow morning as well. But we did work on a statement. I'm assuming she has been asked by Journal Sentinel and Facebook and website and whatever else based on the outcome of the meeting. So she was ready to post that, I think, tomorrow morning, as long as that's what we want.
The one thing that I wanted to make sure that was communicated with our students and that they understood was that we need to be respectful of those people,
Yep.
whichever choice.
100% will be my
No
thing.
bullying, no
Yeah.
isolation,
Yeah.
none of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
And as a note as well, as anybody in spring sports, they have to follow the
Correct.
WIA
We
rules,
will.
which is
Not our-
nothing to do with our district.
Yeah.
Well, I know that. I'm just saying that it's not a free pass.
Correct.
And,
Oh, sorry.
well, I understand I will not change any of your mind. I prefer to err on the side of caution. I option our families. But I understand that lots of other people feel a different way, but I am still concerned about the risk to children and the ramifications to our community. And I wouldn't feel right if I didn't say that.
I also wanted to just point out that even the Jefferson County Health individual is named, you can give the right. Samuels did, although he did say that they would.
They're not gonna change their.
They're not gonna change their view. He
recommendation.
did mention how, small a population in our particular area is affected by COVID at this time. And he understood, it's, I could read it, but maybe it would be better to read how he said it, because he said it accurately too. But I think what he said also gives me more confidence to see that our area is not affected that heavily, and that the wishes of the people has been heard by us, and I think it's important that we support our community. And as Michael had mentioned, we are not gonna ostracize anybody who has special, wants to continue to use the mask. I think everybody's wishes will be observed and appreciated and supported. So I feel like with those in particular, like we wanted an expert, I felt that the expert kind of came in with a good, strong hedge that said, and there has to be at some point in time that this happens. And I think it hurts children mental health wise and other things that maybe aren't as easily tracked as getting a disease, or they can do a test, but I think they're still being affected and harmed. So I feel that not having the mask for the kids psychologically is a strong thing.
As a building principal, do you have any feedback or input on?
No, just I think other than to just go on record that our quarantine policies, we're not changing any of that. Some districts have changed those, we have not. And I think also to just go on record that if we have an issue, we have the right to call an emergency board meeting and go back to it. So, we will only have 7.5 days left of school at that point.
Technically, it probably would have, policy, there might be some authority for me that if we get Thursday,
From us.
to say we're going to
Yeah.
pass. Because I don't think you're gonna pull, it'd take 24 hours of the board meeting.
Yeah.
Friday.
Didn't in an earlier board meeting, they vote for you to have the right to change that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just that we do have the power to say, again, it's 7.5 days.
Yep.
I'm gonna live in an optimistic world with that it's not going to be an issue and that it's all gonna be good.
Palmyra-Eagle and I believe Waukesha took all their COVID.
No, they did not. They
Just
took their
quarantine,
quarantine.
they still have masks.
But I'll be honest, they believe the exact opposite of us. They're saying the masks do what they should do, so Kaylee and I don't have to quarantine because we wear a mask and because we keep distance. So again, they said all their other protocols stay in place, not quarantine. It'll be an interesting tug of war over the next few weeks.
Well, I also want to point out that our dashboard has been at 0 for a very long
Yeah.
time. And that that's fine, and throughout the history of this year, being as it has, we've never met that 3
Correct.
positive
Yep.
cases in a 7-week rolling out,
Yep.
or week, whatever.
Yep.
And that we just have not experienced the virus, and we're watching it work in our classrooms. It hasn't spread. We haven't had a positive case that went through 7 other people and we had an outbreak or anything like that. And I'll also say it out loud. Our administrators at the very beginning of the year said that they were not going to use valuable education time policing masks. And I believe that they have held up to that part of this. You can take a look at our Facebook page and you can see kids in a line and half of them have their mask down like this. And based on what we know, then this should mean that my germs are going everywhere, and things like that. So I just feel like we have a kind of the cards stacked that we're gonna be okay with this situation, and I feel like if we don't try it now, we're gonna have kids in masks for summer school and kids in masks come the fall, and this is a good chance that we can successfully move to recommend it. There will still be children wearing masks. And we're still recommending, we're not arguing whether or not, at least I am not arguing whether or not masks work. I am simply arguing that I believe that we will still be successful with in-person school here.
Keeping now that the age has been lowered for youth to get vaccinated, the time frame between now and is it 12? Yeah, so 12 and up can actually have the opportunity to go be vaccinated prior to even the mandate coming off, which hopefully a lot of our families will take advantage of. So when can you go to Walgreens? So I mean, I think that's going to help people too. And the littler ones, that's still not, available for, but that's where there's even less.
And we did offer vaccination to all of our staff. Everybody who wanted it took it. They've had their second dose. They've had their X amount of time for it to be valid. That I know that's not 100% fail safe, but we have taken measures to protect our staff for this situation.
Any further discussion?
I'd just like to thank obviously our teachers and staff have done a great job, but also our families, our parents, our community, for keeping sick kids home, for working through this. I think our district has really been blessed with the support of our families this year, and it's because of that support that we have been able to be successful and keep their kids in school. So I have no reason to believe that that's going to change by saying that the masks aren't mandatory at this point.
We've been face to face, so it's just not.
Can we do both?
Yep. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, which is to convert from mandatory mask usage to recommended mask usage on May 24th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. E, consider approval of ionization units with related projects at PE, MSHS, and Eagle Elementary.
A motion to approve the ionization units.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of the HVAC RTU repair.
Motion to approve the high school, middle school HVAC RTU repair.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Most of these things were pretty well gone over in the previous committee meetings. Okay, consider approval of 2021 faculty and staff salary adjustments.
I'll make a motion to consider the approval of the 2021 faculty and staff salary adjustments.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I will abstain from this as my wife will.
And should we clarify exactly what those salary adjustments are in the motion?
I don't-
Well, as proposed by
Yeah,
Tom.
5% across the board,
5%.
You say
Based on
for the
current-
benefit of people watching this that don't necessarily.
based on current
talk about.
And it's a salary adjustment because these people, the majority of these people were asked to take a 5% cut because we were on the verge of the dissolution and we just had to make sure our budget was on track. So it's an adjustment based on them being willing to take the cut in the first place. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with Zach abstaining. Okay, consider approval of educator contracts for 21-22 school year.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of the educator contracts for the 21-22 school year.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of early graduation for 21-22 school year.
I did not see this list in the board packet.
I did not.
Brad asked me about it on Friday when I was off, and I explained to him that it's board policy when they have to apply and when you have to approve it. I don't know that it has to be approved this meeting. I'll be honest, I'd have to look it up. I don't know the name, but you didn't see a list?
Well, I don't think we even see the names, I think we just see how they're actually doing. It's kind of a generic.
But it maybe it's normally presented as like GPA and credit,
Yes,
that would make sense.
yes.
I'll be honest, guys, I don't have it. I never saw it. Let me, if you, maybe I
Well,
can
what,
take.
my question was, isn't this too early to approve that?
No, they have to apply in April, and I believe it is usually, and again, it's board policy, all of it is laid out, approved in June, or May, sorry. And then we meet with them in first semester and finalize their plans. They can always not graduate, just like you, I mean, they can come back always, but there is a process of steps we have to go through, and it typically does start with you guys approving it. I don't know that it has to be approved this meeting. I would assume it does if it was sent to you. It may.
Can we make a caveat that it's with all applicants who meet the appropriate?
Yeah, I think as long as they meet the qualifications for early graduation, you would have no need to deny them. She never shared the list with me, so I don't have to.
Well, yeah, and I think that was my question last year too, was like, what things could change, and you guys had said that if
Yeah,
things
we
change
meet
at
with
that
them,
point.
we have to meet with them and ensure they meet the requirements, like they can't have any after first semester of their senior year, there's some other requirements, so yeah. There are steps along the way, whoever established board policy, whenever they established it, put in these check marks as far as the board approving.
I motion to approve the early graduation for next school year, as long as they follow the current guidelines.
You got a second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Carrie, can I ask real quick, did we have anybody graduate early this school year?
Two. We had 3 apply, I think, and 1 did not. And actually, well, we had made an exception because of COVID. 1 applied late, but it was a switch in home life, blah, 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 and it was a COVID issue, so typically we had 2 apply, and only one of the ones that applied last year went through.
Okay, J, consider approval of COVID co-op girls soccer for this, well, this says 2021, 21, 22, and 22, 23.
So we did an emergency that you did not board approve. Doris signed off on, you all got your email on it, and that really was allowed because of COVID. I think what this application is for is to continue that as a traditional application in the upcoming school years that are listed there.
So that he wants to stay in that group for.
Yes, so then the co-op would continue, because right now it's a 1 year, it would be done after this year, unless it's approved by each board and the WIA and the conference in which the team resides.
So he did this looking at, potential amount of girls coming up that play soccer.
Yeah.
And realized
Yeah. I mean,
it's really
we-
not enough to.
Yeah, we scraped the bottom of the barrel this year and he had nine girls. And he was looking for options for them to play with 9 scrimmages and all kinds of things. And then this opportunity with Whitewater came up. I mean, they're the most logical co-op in the world for us. And they're right there. So that's, I think the plan down the line is still to be able to offer girls soccer, but realize we won't have enough kids to field our own team.
And that could change.
Yeah, it could change. Sure.
And the other thing it does allow is allows us not to have to take freshmen and sophomores and put them on a varsity team with no, allows for some building and some experience.
Right.
And the kids, which is nice and helps the longevity as well.
Does this imply people who open enroll to other districts in their status of playing for those schools? Because if we did not field a team, some of those
Correct.
children did not have to sit out a season despite being over the age of a sophomore.
Maybe, there's probably that type of
I think
loophole.
that needs to be communicated to the WIAA that we will be now having a team.
But we are having it. We have
We
it
are
outside.
having, but there are children who open enroll to other districts that did not have to sit out a season.
They're too young. The ones you're talking about are only 10th graders. And 10th graders don't have to sit out.
No, that's true, but I thought they were.
Because it's not varsity, right?
Yeah. Yes, and non-varsity. There's all kinds of weird rules with transfer rule, but it's after your fourth consecutive semester is when the transfer rule goes in. So it's going into, well, when you start second semester of your sophomore year is when you kind of stop yourself from being able to jump from school to school. So, and even you can't transfer.
If you come, because earlier you said if people came back into our district and they were 2 years or above.
Yeah.
But if this is their home district, do they have to sit
It's
out?
it's a transfer of schools. It doesn't matter what your home district is, it's when you transfer district. So it wouldn't matter,
If you're even going to a different high school in the same district, it's still in the city.
yes.
Well, that'll prevent kids from coming back.
Yeah,
to,
okay.
But, whatever.
If we enter into the co-op, how easy is it to get out of the co-op?
I believe it's, so how many years did Joel give you there?
It goes until 23.
He goes, yeah.
I believe you're in it for the, I mean, I think the expectation that you would be in it for the 3 years, so you didn't,
Yeah,
I'll be blunt, treat the other school poorly, but if you also don't have any kids to send, the co-op doesn't exist either. I don't, co-ops are new to us. I mean, we do the one with East Troy for boys soccer, but that's really about it. But I don't think it's horribly difficult, other than maybe you're just not being a real nice person. But if we had enough kids to field their own team, I don't know, as long as Whitewater continue to have enough kids, I think it would probably be okay. But again, I really don't anticipate anytime soon we are gonna have 11, 12, 13 varsity ready soccer athletes. It just
Do we
don't.
know how many players they have?
I do not. Joel probably does. And the majority of our 9 right now are younger, so they will see JV action, which will be good for them. And in talking to the girls, when Joel talked to all the girls, they want to play real games. They don't want a scrimmage, and they don't want, so they were more than happy to go to Whitewater. They've already been, I mean, I think they started going today even.
I just have a question why the boys are with East Troy, but the girls are with White.
It's all about who will take you and who needs you.
So maybe East Troy's got a big.
Yeah, and East Troy girls soccer, I believe, has a decent amount of numbers. The other thing is you have to add your enrollments together. So a lot of times it'll bump a team up, a WIA division, and that can be an issue. Joe was trying to work on something earlier in the year with Johnson Creek, which sounded great because we're both little, but that's quite a bit of a haul to get them. Well, actually, we were hoping they would come here, so that it wasn't. But Whitewater is a much more logical fit as far as someone to co-op with.
Kudos that these girls get.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome that it came together, and he worked really hard. Many phone calls to WIA to get him started this year, and then keep it going down the line.
Did we make a motion? Consider, I'll make a motion.
This was the
We already
emergency
did
one.
it.
It based on our
We don't
approval, but I had to
discuss
sign it, I had to, under Friday to sign it, or they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Let them jump in for the first game. All those in favor of approving the co-op girls soccer for 3 years, as stated by Joel, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. District administrators, business manager report.
Well, kind of combine both of them. I gave you some information tonight on how I'd like to fill the business manager position, and we have an opportunity in May and June to see how that goes. Going out to hire a business manager, I'm probably not going to get anyone until July 1st, if that, because, in the middle of budget season, most are probably not going to want to do it. But Brad has shown an aptitude for this. He does have a 4-year degree, and he is enrolled in the school business management, or just got enrolled in the school business management program at UW Whitewater. So what I thought was looking at new responsibilities for him. He would work into that particular salary. I'll bring that back for approval. Put a plan out there to work on that. But anyways, and then at some point we would hire a secretary. Now we could probably, there's a few people who could probably fill in it. Secretary will takes on the other information. Then we have Shelley Thomas helping. She agreed to do 8 to 10 hours a week through the end of June to kind of get some of the accounting system, doing reconciliations, I think, you know, there's things like that that you can help with, that you can do. So, and I think Joanna in payroll is finally at a point where she's pretty much, I don't know, she's got that under control. So that would be the plan. Like I said, we have some time to see how that's going to go, and if it doesn't work, we can always. I think, you know, working with Brad seems to be pretty proactive. He does good. He does have a handle using the Skyward system. He's at other districts. So we can get the different support levels. I would like to have the Skyward folks come in. There is a way to run financial reports without having to take all the information and transfer it to an Excel spreadsheet. That's a lot of extra work, and sometimes there's accuracy issues. So those are some of the things I'd like to work on so that we don't have to run into that issue of me saying, that's what we don't have the full report tonight. So we'll kind of look at that. On the other hand, like I noted, our cash position is very strong right now. And I expect it to stay there to the year. It looks like if things come together appropriately, we'll have another slight surplus, which again, right now our fund balance, at the start of the year was at 28%. That's pretty solid. It's pretty solid. 15% is really good. We've got other districts where we've got AA2 bond ratings with a lower percent. AA2 is pretty good. That's, in this state, that was really strong. So that's another thing on my plate, is to go after Standard & Poor's or Moody's, whichever one, kind of get that rating up there, so that if we do decide to go out and need to borrow, do a referendum down the road, we'll be able to do it with a strong record.
Any further of your report?
No, that's probably it for me. I was expecting it short because I thought maybe there might be some other pieces to this that could be much longer. But the board reorganization is probably the shortest one I've ever heard. So I don't think it's ever been a mess like that in my career.
Okay, are there any announcements or board comments?
I'd just like to share a really cool thing. I happened to go to the boys and girls games last night, and boys baseball and girls softball up here. And V from VP happened to come in towards the end of what proved to be a very short game, because the boys were killing it on the field with an 18-0 win in 5 innings. And the baseball team, the coach, the boys, they did a really wonderful thing, thanking V personally. They brought him out onto the field, they posed for team photos with him. Every boy shook his hand or hugged him and thanked him for his contributions and purchasing their outstanding uniforms this year and making sure that there's uniforms set for next year as well. And he even had them come out and take part in post-game rituals on the field afterwards and celebrate. And I think there was a lot of tears being held back in some grown men's and boys' eyes, and it was really touching to see the closeness of the kids and the community and the coaches and the parents, and it just really struck a chord with me and reminded me of how special this little district is and the amazing things that happen here every single day. And sometimes we can take it for granted, but we've been really fortunate with this community support that we have behind us, and V is a shining example of that. So I thought it was great that the ones were able to thank him personally.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because they let me actually, Coach Davies usually does, they run the bases at the end of the game and he'll clap bats together to signal the boys to run. V actually got to do that last night, so that was really cool. Very cool.
just had.
He's also gonna be getting a jersey from the baseball team, and he's gonna display it in his store too.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
And his first farmer's market in his parking lot, which also benefits our school district in many different ways, was Monday, 4 to 6. And I think it'll only get bigger, so that's a great thing. And I just wanted to make a comment that as part of the Scholarship and Education Foundation, I was able to sit in on interviews with 5 of our seniors. These kids are awesome, amazing, and going places. I mean, they're fantastic. And I'm sure there's plenty more of them like that. It's not, and it just really was an honor to see how well. And I think all of the 5 kids we interviewed have gone through this district, kindergarten through 12th grade. So it's just an amazing thing that our staff is doing at all levels to get these kids to where they are, and they're gonna be able to leave here and be so successful in whatever they're choosing to do. So that was just kind of cool.
I'll mention the EPM in Eagle, the Eagle Public Market is holding our PTO fundraiser on Saturday for the elementary school. So you can get entered into gift baskets. They got all sorts of stuff. I think a portion of everything or most of the things that you buy goes back to the PTO too. So I'll stick that in.
Anything else? Okay, the upcoming meetings and events are listed on your agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.